The Caribou Trail is a narrative game set during World War I, specifically the Gallipoli campaign. It follows a handful of soldiers from the Newfoundland regiment. So, right off the bat, you're getting a double whammy of unique. There's not many games set in World War I, and the ones we do have vary wildly in quality and historical accuracy. And I don't think I've ever played a game specifically about Newfies. I didn't know all that much about them.
What are you at, boys?
All I know is you're not supposed to call them Newfies.
He's from Newfoundland, so it's kind of tough to understand what he's saying a lot of the time.
Newfie talk?
You ever been to Newfoundland?
No.
You wouldn't call them Newfies if you had.
Because the only Newfoundland character I'm familiar with is Ted Hitchcock from Shoresy.
Been called worse, boys.
You get a good amount of my favorite Newfoundland pronunciation, that is, buys.
Just like you boys.
What are you at, boys?
Shoot his boys. Poor boy's toes was blue.
Loyal to the soil, boys. Loyal to the soil.
Meaning boys, if you couldn't figure that out. No martoonies, though.
Thanks for the martini.
But it's not about ha-ha funny talk. This game is a nice mini crash course on the culture. What was/is important to the average Newfoundlander.
We'll just cook up some fish and brews. You'll feel right at home.
Did you know an ugly stick was a real thing? You're given a nice background on them through the environment pickups. Why are they wearing blue instead of khaki? Why don't most of these poor boys have helmets? Well, there's a historical reason for that. The First World War is as fascinating as it is horrifying. And if you were a victim of the American education system like I was, you probably graduated high school without a proper understanding of it. Franz Ferdinand got shot, Germany got mad at everyone, and then everyone just sat in trenches not doing anything. Until the Americans showed up to save the day. Then it mostly gets boiled down to little quotes like this. This war is a cautionary tale of bad leadership, about setting events in motion until they're beyond the control of anyone, and the unbearable human cost of getting caught in the gears of history as it unfolds. These guys are just fishermen turned soldiers.
Put me on a sloop in the nor'easter, but get me out of these trenches.
Heeding the call of His Majesty. Some of them don't even know who the King of England is.
You know, King Eddie upside down don't mean someone's gonna die.
That was King George, you stunned horse.
That's Gordon, by the way. He's one of 3 characters the story focuses on. There's also Lonnie, the youngest and most naive.
Jack-o'-lanterns? Here?
And you play as Fisher, usually the voice of reason between these two.
How about you lay off the kid for a bit, Gordo?
There are other characters as well, like Ogden, your commanding officer. But the dynamic between these 3 is the emotional crux of the story. Now, this game's pretty short, like 2 to 3 hours short. So I can't talk about it much without getting into spoilers immediately. This game is kind of like Firewatch, if you've ever played that, but with more barbed wire and trench foot. So if that interests you, maybe check it out first. Otherwise, here we go! We begin with a nighttime landing on the Turkish shores. The art style's interesting because it's almost Disney-ish. Like, it's hard to imagine at first how violent it could possibly be, when everyone looks this adorable. Look at this guy's eyes. Oh boy, he's dead for sure.
My sister's a nurse on one of them hospital boats nearby. I mean, she's my sister, Mary Grace, my oldest sister. Yeah.
Oh Lord Jesus, this kid's toast. After landing, the Ottomans open up on the beach, and everyone's forced to hurry. Not run, hurry. Please hurry. Fish is knocked out and we get a good look at the camp. This is where we can find those collectibles. They give a bit of a background on the Newfoundland regiment, as well as the war itself on a more macro scale. I like the sections where you move around the camp or the trenches, and there's really not a whole lot going on. It reminds me of that quote, "War is long periods of boredom, punctuated by moments of sheer terror." That's kind of the point of these parts. This game does a good job at letting the more mundane horrors of war sit with you. Flies everywhere, rats all over the place, seeing the same corpse over and over.
Hey, Tommy.
These are the experiences soldiers would write about, not tales of glory and conquest. Just sitting in a wet trench, chasing the rats away from eating your food, wondering what you're even doing here. The first task for our trio is a recon mission into no man's land. Check out a crashed plane, and try to get a handle on what the terrain is for a possible attack. We come across a dead Ottoman soldier with a document, and send Lonnie back with it. It might be valuable intelligence. More likely, though, a reason to send the poor kid back to the lines.
How did you know that was valuable intelligence? You can't read Turkish.
Not a lick of it. But how did I know it wasn't?
As Gordon and Fisher move forward, though, something strange happens. Maybe Fish is losing it a bit, or maybe there's a supernatural element to this story. Time will tell. Either way, the music does a decent job of setting the atmosphere. Sometimes it kind of reminds me of the atmospheric music in Fallout. The voice acting carries this whole thing, though.
You've a gift with words, Gordo. One day you're gonna talk yourself into something you can't talk yourself out of.
With a more simple graphic style, you need those performances to really sell the characters.
It almost kind of reminds me of St. John's in a way.
Yes, except instead of fish boats, it's destroyers and transport ships. Otherwise, it's just like home.
I think they do that well enough. Anyway, back to the ghost stories. The game goes out of its way to explain that these folk were a bit superstitious. I'm just a little stitious, but I still like a good ghost story now and again. At the end of most days, you end up cooking, mashing up hardtack with salt, and any other ingredients you might find.
I did find something over there. Spices, I think.
Ooh, what, like on a body?
Just, laying near a body.
While the other guys tell stories. It's worth mentioning, you are essentially playing one of these stories. The game really starts on the French front lines, with a young soldier asking the older vets why they don't share stories about the Gallipoli campaign.
How are you new guys supposed to know what we're in for if you old-timers won't tell us nothing?
Then the flashback to the boat sequence. I forgot about that like halfway through the game. These story moments are a big part of the characterization. We get a little bit of Fish's background.
Steal slivers of soap. Put them under me pillow. So it would smell like her hair.
Lonnie's superstition.
No, it was pixies. That's what them nuns said.
Gordo's role as a big brother type character. Stories around the fire are as old as humanity itself. Our next mission also puts us in no man's land. A short truce has been put in place to help bury the dead on both sides. You find plenty of your own comrades, as well as some fallen Turks. One even has a document on him. In the process of collecting tags and letters to home, geez, this guy was holding one of those John Deere letters. You come across some Ottoman soldiers doing the same. The captain speaks English, and he gives you one he found. Now you have a choice. You can surrender the document you found, or quietly keep it to yourself. Now at first, I didn't say anything. This could be valuable intelligence. It could save my friends' lives if I turned in this information. But then I realized something. None of these soldiers had anything valuable to the war effort on them. They're just regular guys. They missed their parents. They were sorry for leaving behind friends. Just a handful of the millions of stories forgotten by this war. This poor guy was probably the same, so I reloaded the save and I handed it in. And I was right.
What does it say? Sir?
This is permission to go back to his village. His sister for her wedding.
Oh.
There's no trophy for it, it's just the right thing to do. I also love the exchange between Fish and the Turkish captain when they talk about why they're here, and how Fish really doesn't have an answer.
This is where they sent me?
You come to my country from Newfoundland on top of the United States and you don't know why.
Everyone has their own reasons for joining up, but why are we watching our graveyard get bigger and bigger on this random beach in Turkey?
This peninsula controls the Dardanelles. Winston Churchill wants to ship packages through the Dardanelles to the Tsar of Russia to make the world safe for democracy.
Russia.
My men die to defend their home. You are anxious to die for packages.
I, better get back.
Well, when you put it like that, it does feel pointless, which is one of the themes of this game. The other is loss.
Lonnie!
Boy, I hate to say it, but I called that. Gordon decides to lead a charge to the sniper's nest in no man's land. With covering fire, you make it to their position, and grenade them into submission. The last one alive begs you not to shoot, and you got a few options here. I love the sound of Fish's pulse pounding. This is his first experience with the enemy as an enemy. The only thing I've shot in this entire game is a rat. I decided to take him prisoner, because any knowledge he has could Alright. I didn't play it out again, but I just assume this guy doesn't survive no matter what. So you get your revenge, but it's soon revealed that you're pulling out. Geez, this really was all pointless. But Gordon brings up a good point.
You said once the Turks knows we're leaving, they'll shell the beach.
Count on it.
The Turks have the beach zeroed, so when we leave it'll be a regular turkey shoot. We need a way to trick the enemy into thinking we're still manning the front lines. They come up with an idea to do just that, inspired by their own ghost stories, seeing things that aren't really there. They rig up Home Alone style contraptions to fire rifles and machine guns, while no one is in the trench. But on his way out, Fish finds himself in Silent Hill, and he can't get out. It seems like he's being tormented by the ghost of Lonnie, who is vengeful because of how he died. After walking through horror upon horror, Fish finds his way out, and he realizes this was a narrative callback to a ghost story that Lonnie told, about a ghost that led him out of a blizzard.
He takes off running, and I starts chasing him.
Remember what I said about this being a campfire story? So you can take the supernatural at face value if you want, but it seems pretty clear to me this is embellishment.
Memory plays tricks.
For the sake of the younger soldiers listening to this story in France, it's a better campfire story if you have ghosts. Unreliable narrators indeed. But Fish finds his way to the boats, and the boys find themselves safe and on their way to France for the Battle of the Somme. Yeah, it didn't get better for the Newfoundland soldiers. In fact, they took horrible losses throughout the war, which was devastating for the communities back home. But they are memorialized by the Trail of the Caribou, markers signifying their participation through the war, and the massive cost paid by a small country. It's a good little game and a good little story. If you haven't already, you should check it out. Maybe learn a thing or two by.
And what's the point of living if you don't got a good story to tell by the end of it, eh, bye?
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe. Check out the other games I've played and felt compelled to talk about. There's a whole playlist of my ramblings. Moo!